All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our panel about biodesign and sustainability at FIT. My name is Dr. Evie. I'm an ecology professor here at the Department of Science and Math. I'm also the current faculty advisor for the Biodesign Challenge program here at FIT. The Biodesign Challenge program is an international competition based here in New York. It has been a program since 2016. And FIT has been a big player in that program ever since it started. Our team, Alginet, won that first competition. And each year since, we've sent award-winning teams to this competition, really showcasing the knowledge, innovation, and passion of our students here. And working with the bioscience students is really one of the most rewarding experiences that I have as a professor here. I'm always really impressed with the students, their ideas, their innovations, and how eager they are to learn about sustainability from both scientists and designers. As part of our panel today, we have two FIT alumni, Mitchell Henderson and Valentina Gomez, who are going to share their experiences and their perspective on sustainability. Our panel's host today is Amber Valletta, supermodel and FIT sustainability ambassador, who also joined my biodesign course last year. So Amber, Valentina, you want to introduce yourselves and give us a little background on the sustainability work that you do or have done?
Hi, I'm Valentina Gomez. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here with you guys today. I participated in the 2018 Biodesign Challenge, and I graduated from Textile Development and Marketing in 2020 with a minor in Ethics and Sustainability and Asian Studies. And today I've been working with Wearwool. I'm one of the co-founders, and it's a biomaterial startup. We're developing biodegradable fibers with built-in color and performance properties. So with our technology, we're really looking to reduce the reliance on extractive polymers like polyester, and then also cut out the dyeing and finishing processes of textiles, which is very water and chemically intensive.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Mitchell. Thank you guys so much for having me here today. I'm very excited to talk with you guys and discuss biodesign and sustainability within the fashion realm. So I participated in the biodesign competition in 2019 with Team Ecolasting, where we focused on creating a sustainable, circular and regenerative solution to spandex using post-consumer oyster waste. I received my associate's degree in fashion design and my bachelor's in international trade and marketing, along with minors in ethics and sustainability and international politics at FIT, where I graduated in fall of 2020. And currently I am pursuing a master's of science in sustainability management at American University.
Nice. Well, welcome everybody. And both of you are so impressive. And obviously, Professor Evie, you're the Mecca. And I've just thoroughly enjoyed taking your class last semester. And I know Mitchell a little bit. And Valentina, I'm super excited to meet you. I know a little bit about you because I know about Wearwool. So thank you all for being here and to this conversation. Just to start, either one of you feel free to answer this, but what are sustainable materials and their connection to biodesign? So if somebody didn't know anything about this subject and just hears sustainability and fashion, what's the connection with biodesign?
Yeah, so I think sustainable materials can sometimes be a relative term depending on the context of the material. So I would usually say like the most sustainable materials is, using something that's repurposed or recreating a material out of something that already exists. Say, like recycled polyester is better than virgin polyester, and, Wearwool is going to be even better than that. And then also intercepting dead stock fabrics or things that are already heading to landfill is a great way to use materials already in existence. And then going into biomaterials, I feel like biomaterials, on the other hand, are derived from nature and then engineered into useful items. And I would say that they have a variety of applications. such as in the fashion industry with fashion textiles, but they also can extend into the medical field and beyond. So there's different ways to approach biomaterials in biodesign, such as through biomimicry is one way. And I would say biomimicry, for those who don't know the concept yet, is basically just taking inspiration and elements found in nature to create solutions to human problems.
Yeah, just to also give some perspective, I think to me, like a sustainable material is something that gives back to the earth more than it takes. So it's like a material that degrades in a reasonable amount of time in a micro-friendly, rich environment, and it serves as like a nutrient to the soil instead of persisting in like a landfill or in like our fresh waterways. And then I think also a problem that we have right now with something that is biodegradable like cotton, there is a lot of these finishes and dyes that are put on top of it that then inhibits it being a biodegradable fiber. And I think the word biomaterial is something that's like very broad, and it's like a really big umbrella that encompasses a lot of different types. So there's this really good report that I came out last year. It's like the Biofabricate and Fashion for Good. And I think that one has helped a lot of people like me just understand better how to explain like, what is this like? Because bio-based can be something that goes from being 10% or up to 100% bio-based. So there's like a really big gap between if something is bio-based like by 10% or 50% or 100. And I think under those terms, there's a lot of different types of bio fibers like biosynthetic, biofabricated, bioassembled. So there's so many new types of fibers being created now. So I think right now there has to be like a better understanding of what type of bio fiber is being created right now.
Right. And if you're specifically talking about the good fibers and biodesign in a positive manner, and we're talking about it in reference to maybe more fashion and circularity, how do you all see that connection? Because I think that's the big turn that we need really in fashion design and in the industry, is to see the industry become circular. So talk about that and how that is possible maybe through biodesign.
Yeah. First, I think it's really important because I feel like biodesign also can be a very broad term and can apply to a lot of different contexts. For me, to be honest, when I first attended my first biodesign meeting, I had very little idea about what the meaning or the concept was. And so my first thought, I would say, would relate back to a book on biomimicry that my friend gave me. Sort of looking to nature for solutions to solve the world's problems, as I said a little bit earlier. And while this definitely is one aspect of what biodesign can be, I think the field of biodesign is beautiful because of the vastness of what it can offer. So for me, in regards to circularity, biodesign is about integrating arts and science in harmony with nature's and societies. So the concept of creating a circular life cycle for whatever you aim to create. This means, taking a look at the raw materials that you are inputting to the use of the product all the way to end of life. It's sort of about investing and integrating living systems into our daily lives that are harmonious for one another.
Yeah, I think similar to Mitchell just said, I think biodesign and biomimicry is something that kind of like made me feel okay about entering the textile and the fashion world, because it's something that I've always been enamored with since I was a little girl. But then once I got to school, I started to learn about how every process of a textile and every part of the supply chain is super toxic and just very resource intensive. And once I took the bio class, it kind of like demonstrated to me like, oh, there is these solutions out there. And there is, you just like think outside this box that we've been taught so far, and just think of like how science and when design, they start to communicate better. There's so much room for collaboration there. And I think that's something that'll help a lot of people just understand like climate change and their impact and what we can do like as a community to bring forth. So I think having like the world of biodesign combined with like the world of science and just people that are creating new products, it's a way to also like tackle this like waste problem that we have. Because right now we do have a really big waste problem with fashion and fast fashion. And just so much clothes is getting thrown away constantly. So having these like two worlds of having all these like worlds collaborate that before weren't having these conversations, I think is a really important way to step forward and be able to drive this like circular fashion in industry.
That's great. Evie, do you have any thoughts? Do you want to share anything?
Sure. I think you guys touched on a lot of the really big points. And I guess, because I'm sort of the outsider in the fashion world, because my background is in science, what's always really exciting in the biodesign program for me is how the students who have come from design business background sort of approach the topic in like a completely new way than I wouldn't do. Like because I've been trained as a scientist, I sort of have an idea of sort of how you approach it. These are how you connect these concepts. Here's what it's used for. But you guys don't have that. And I think that's really important for sort of creative innovation is sort of, really wanting to learn more and, coming at these concepts from a new perspective. I have this one example that I keep thinking about is, I forget which year this was, but one student was like, I was eating an apple and I bit into it and I saw that there was like some like fungus inside the apple. And I thought, why can't we make like packaging like that where there's a fungus inside it that already starts to break down the packaging? And I'm like, I would never think about that in a million years, but that's amazing. Like that's a way to look at nature and think, why can't we do it like that? I would never have thought of that. So that's almost always sort of like surprised and excited by what the students think about. And like Valentina and Mitchell said, like, thinking outside the box where you're trained, you can sort of, you don't have to keep going in this sort of toxic cycle. You can change it to be something better. And I think a lot of what I'm seeing from FIT students is that they really want that change. And I think, they're in a really good place to, be really proactive in that space. So that's always really exciting for me. And that's sort of, at least what I get out of this is sort of just continually being surprised and excited by how the students approach this sort of combination of science and design.
Yeah, I would say to also just go off of what Evie was saying there, for biodesign too, it's really been interesting to work collaboratively with people from a variety of different industries. I feel like a lot of the time people within an industry tend to group together and remain sort of within their certain bubbles and approach topics, as Evie was saying, within their certain context of what they're familiar and comfortable with. And so I think it's been really exciting and very cool to sort of get a bunch of different perspectives from designers to engineers to a variety of other people from biology, physics. It's just been really cool to see different minds approach different contexts and different problems with new ways of thinking that are a little bit different to me, and my ways may be a little bit different to them. So I think it really creates some new interesting solutions to some of these problems.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really magic when you get everybody from different fields in the same room to try to approach a problem. That's the most exciting part about this, is that we all want to make this field more sustainable. We want to make it more creative, but anyways, the thing that you get from getting all these different sort of perspectives in one room is really something that you couldn't do otherwise. So yeah, I would second what Mitchell said. And that's, again, one of the things that's really great about this, is it allows for that to happen.
How are each of you currently incorporating biodesign or biotech in your careers now, or your studies, Mitchell?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I can talk a bit about Werewolf because that's kind of what I've been doing for the last year. But so like at Werewolf, our design process, it always begins with like looking to nature. And in nature, there's all these incredible performance properties like moisture management, stretch, wicking, and all of this is attributed to like these building blocks, which are proteins. And so our fibers are really inspired by the way that nature creates color and function, which is done through protein structure. So we use these designer proteins, as what we like to call them, that provide color and performance properties, and then we combine them with the bulk of our biopolymers. And so from this, we're looking to source from an agro-industrial waste stream. So it kind of ties in like more circular aspects. But that's something that we're looking to do later at lab scale. We're not sourcing from ag waste, but this allows us to develop like a low impact compostable textile fiber that also has these like vibrant structural color. And then we're also looking at functional performance properties later on, like stretch. So this allows us to not use these like eco and biotoxic dyes and finishing agents or the petrochemicals that are used to produce synthetic fibers. And so we're really looking to how nature creates these performance properties and how we can then translate that into fiber that can be biodegradable and then compost as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's super cool. I really like to hear you talk about that. For me, the field of biodesign has taught me to think about things in terms of circularity. So as I said, I'm currently in graduate school working on a degree in sustainability management. And in school, especially within the grad program, we discuss and work collaboratively on projects that aim to understand and create solutions to, very complex problems involving climate change and sustainability. So while I'm not currently working on my material science research project, Ecolastane, I am still considering and taking a holistic approach to creating solutions within a framework of circularity. And some of these solutions may benefit from the use of biomaterials and biotechnology as the future of the field evolves and becomes, more readily accessible.
Yeah, I think that like the whole framework that's developing is so important because this industry is changing so quickly right now. So I think it's important to have people that are also communicating like kind of like how quickly it's evolving and what's the development process, because there is a big like knowledge gap between the people who are making the fibers and then the brands and then the people who are funding it. So it's great to have people that are also developing the framework for it that's able to translate this language, because sometimes it's a bit hard to do it all.
Yeah, and you need people on every side of it, whether it's a sales team or trying to go and get investments to scale this project, right? These are new technologies and they're going to need investments and they're going to need marketing and they're going to need distribution. And so, yeah, you'll need people like Mitchell maybe to do another part of it. It's not, we can't do everything. We have to collaborate.
Definitely.
Yeah, and looking at the fashion supply chain too, I mean, as you were saying, Amber, it is so vast and it's so international that it really does require knowledge from so many different fields. I mean, even agriculture, talking about growing sustainable cotton, to mills, to logistics and transportation. So I think, communicating and having somebody who can be there and talk and make it known and accessible, inaccessible language to people on a variety, including the consumers, because they also want to know what's going on behind the scenes and how they're making ethical choices and, what impacts are they having by purchasing or consuming certain goods.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kind of segueing into the last question I have anyway. You were talking about, we were talking about the supply chain and the enormity of it. And how can we scale these innovations in order to improve living conditions for those who might still be in poverty, as well as secure environmental conservation for a better future?
Yeah. Yeah, I can go. So I think scaling bio innovations, there is a certain difficulty that is different to some of the other industries, I would say. And so some of these limitations just includes the natural environment and the way that we're getting products or materials. Because I know for my group, Ecolasting, we had to get a bit creative when we were thinking about scaling it up because the source of our protein came from post-consumer oyster byproducts. And there are only so many oysters that we can collect viably in a certain time frame that are from post-consumer resources. Um, and I also think it's interesting, because maybe some things aren't meant to be scaled to the levels that meet current consumption patterns. I think scaling, a lot of these bio innovations are extremely important, but especially when considering biomaterials in a fashion context, it is also important to consider how much we are consuming and if there's an actual need versus what is the want. But going back, I would say to improving conditions for those in poverty, I think listening to and raising marginalized voices and communities is essential for there to be any sort of equity and equality within biodesign, and really within any field too. So listening to the communities that your product or your mission is affecting, and incorporating their voices and concerns, in order to create a world that is more equitable, we need to center the voices that have often been silenced. And one way to do this is access to education. I was fortunate enough to attend college, which is how I got introduced to the field of biodesign, but not everybody has the resources to do so. So I had the right people to help break down those barriers for me to enter into this field. So I think that we need to expand that reach and show that biodesign's intention is to build across communities, professional fields, and a variety of skills. By exploring the pursuit of knowledge and how creativity plays into that process, we are able to envision and create the future that we want to see for ourselves and our future generations. I think that is something that has been lost for a while now. We have the power to shape how we want to see the future of the world. The systems that we live in were all designed by people, and we can design new systems that respond to the needs of our communities and ecosystems rather than that of, US markets and imperialism.
Absolutely.
I love every word that you just said. That was great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but just to talk a little bit about like scaling, I think one of the quickest ways to get these innovations to scale is just like legislation and policy change. I think getting like the governments around the world behind that will really strike a force in the people who are funding this. So like a lot of VCs right now are a bit apprehensive about funding things that do take about 10 years to come to market because they're used to having like a mostly like 5-year mark. But to develop these new fibers and like new, more eco-friendly ways, it's going to take some time. So with policy change backing that up, it will allow like a lot of more funding to come to these innovations, and it'll allow them to come to market quicker. If you have the money, you're able to develop faster. And then in terms of like the living conditions, I think that a lot of it can come from the consumer demand to demand the transparency that they want to see. Because once a brand knows that the consumer is demanding that they want to know every part of their supply chain, and because I mean, there's so many steps, there's so many people who touch from like the fiber to the sewing process to the dyeing process before it actually gets onto our closets and on our backs. There's so many steps to it. And I think that if we're able to demand from a brand that we want to see where everything is coming from, who made what I'm wearing today, like in what type of factory, in what settings, then that'll allow for much better living conditions to be made. Because a lot of the production, how it's been done in the last couple of years, is they're constantly looking for where is the next cheap place to make it? Where is the next cheap place to make it? And that's something that's been really detrimental, especially to the fresh water systems that a lot of these communities have, which was already very little to start with. And now with all the production that's happening there with the toxic dyes that are being put into their water system, it is just getting worse. So it's just really just demanding the transparency, I think, will allow for a lot of these living conditions to be brought better, to become better. And then and another like thing is just like the fibers that are being used today. It's like polyester is so cheap, and it's the fiber that's used the most. It makes up like over 60% of what is used today. And it goes for like 67 cents a kilo, which is so ridiculously low of a price, but that doesn't account for all the terrible things that it's doing and for all the money that's going to be needed later on to actually get rid of this massive problem that we're creating with polyester. So I think it's just also choosing better fibers to start from the beginning of a product's life cycle. It's like just start from the beginning stage, and then you'll be able to address a much broader impact just starting from what fiber did you just choose to put into your running pants or like the shirt you're wearing.
It's designing with purpose and mindfulness rather than just the bottom line.
Yeah, rather than like the end product, it start with the beginning of the product.
Yeah, and see it through, and where will it end up, in not just in a landfill, but how will it affect the community and the environment, right?
Yeah, because a lot of the clothes that we get rid of, it then gets sent to another country, so it's getting sent somewhere. So can it just
isn't just evaporate?
Yeah, can it just degrade wherever it goes, please? So they don't have that other problem to deal with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. Evie, do you have anything to add?
Well, I'm not sure if I have anything to add. Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm wondering, I think it's been mentioned a couple of times as sort of like, a fast growing field of sort of sustainability and fashion and things like that. This could be for any of you, I guess, has your idea about what sustainability is changed since you've participated in biodesign or worked in this field more? It has a perspective on like what makes something sustainable, or what is sustainability sort of evolved as you've learned more, or and do you think that definition sort of works with how we think about fashion now, or do there need to be sort of really big, I don't know, structural or policy or sort of cultural changes for sustainability to really sort of make its way into this field? I know it's a really big question, but that's just sort of something that I was thinking about as you guys were talking.
I would say for me, upon completion of the biodesign project and using that framework, I would say my views haven't necessarily shifted as much as they have solidified. It's always been good to take in new information, and I can apply it within the framework that I learned of circularity and regenerative thinking in the biodesign context. But with regards to sustainability and growing it and really scaling it to the way that is necessary for a really good, viable future for a lot of people, keeping the global climate below 1.5 degrees Celsius. I mean, we need to do radical change because the trajectory that we're on is not there. I mean, the latest IPCC report, International Panel for Climate Change, just reported that, we're not going to meet the metrics of the Paris Accord, and we're not going to meet the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold. It's going to be more something like 2.3 degrees, so quite a bit above where we would like to be. So I think that if we really want to see the change to keep within those levels, we will have to make quite radical transformations, and those transformations will need to happen quickly, not just within fashion, but within energy and wind and water and really all industry.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, I think that definitely, there has to be some radical change, because the way that we're consuming right now, just not just in fashion, but even furniture has adopted like a fast fashion model, and that is just like so intensive of like the like wood that's required for it, and like all these like there's so many more steps to it. So I think it's not just fashion that's going really fast, it's a lot of different levels of consumption that are just adopting this like quick and waste model, and that's something that cannot be sustainable in any way, no matter what type of like what type of resources that's coming from. Nothing can regenerate as quickly as we are buying it and wasting it. So I think a lot of that just goes back to policy. I think policy has to change. A lot of new like laws have to come in to play, and then a lot of energy is being consumed from like the manufacturing process. So I think that adopting more energy efficient processes is something that will make a really big impact to us getting to that 1.5 that Mitch was just saying. But in terms of how the biodesign changed my my thinking of sustainability, I think for me it kind of gave me a bit of hope that if you look into the world of biodesign and biomimicry, there are solutions that we can work together to create. So before the biodesign, I just felt really hopeless. I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't know if I can go and order polyester for this brand every single day of my life. I just can't live with that. So just learning about, thinking about like science and how we can work together to create something new and better for the world. I think that was like the most hopeful class that I've had at FIT. It's just, it gave me a lot of solutions and a lot of like knobs turning on how I can potentially make an impact that will be better for the world.
That's awesome. That's really, I mean, to have some hope, to end with some hope is a great way, I think, to end the panel. I learned a lot from both of you, and of course from Evie from the semester with you, and it's just, I think biodesign for me as well, Valentina, brought me a lot of hope and made me start thinking kind of outside of the box as I work with brands and try to help the industry that I'm in the fashion industry, pivot to more sustainable solutions. It gave me a whole nother kind of way to think about it. And, you know, I'm just really excited for the future of this field, specifically in materials and biotech. I just think it's a huge opening that we haven't really even delved into. So I'm so grateful for you all and helping pave the way, because I think this is a big piece of the future for business, and especially the fashion industry.
Well, it's definitely exciting for me to have, you know, the link to you and, you know, others in the fashion industry who really have a great way to make a lot of positive changes and like give, you know, great opportunities to our students to sort of, you know, have those experiences and connections. I think that's like the great next step after sort of their time at FIT, sort of how to learn how they can expand, or, you know, how can we take what the students are doing here and sort of take it out into the real world. So that's exciting, sort of thinking about how we can keep this moving in a positive direction.
Yeah, and Amber, thank you so much for supporting this. I think that this is just great that you're getting behind all of this and just wanting to like push it forward. So this is great. Thank you.
All of us, right?
Yeah.
Collaboration.
It needs everyone behind it. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. I think these conversations are extremely important to have, and you know, having you, Amber, with the connections and influence that you have over the industry, and you know, Evie, who's very influential in the science department at FIT and connect with a lot of students. And, you too, Valentina, kind of paving the way for some future in biomaterials. I think it's really cool that we're all able to be here today and, have these conversations. I think the more that we have them and the more that we can connect and give that sort of outreach, the more people that we can get involved in a lot of these initiatives.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you guys.
Yeah, this is great. I definitely hope this inspires some new students to get involved and get excited about sustainability and making the future better.